What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. Next question. How do you perceive Steph Curry's two finals that he won with Kevin Durant on the roster? Seems to me the larger NBA fan base and analysts write them off because Steph didn't win finals MVP, although he played at an extremely high level. How do they factor into his legacy in your view? This is a super complex and loaded question. I don't think anybody cares necessarily that he didn't win finals MVP. I've seen like some lowbrow stuff, like just like trolls kind of focusing on that sort of thing. I do think that there's some reality to the basic fact that every NBA championship has a different level of resonance with people. Let's just go back through recent NBA history. Like there's not a lot of people that are profoundly moved by the 2024 Celtics, who have 5 players who fetch over $30 million a year on the open market, beating the Pacers and the injury-ravaged Pacers and the injury-ravaged Cavs along the way to winning a title against a good Western Conference team, but a Western Conference team that nobody thought was the best Western Conference team last year. Like that title, it's still a title. You're not going to get a lot of casual fans that are like, oh my goodness, this is the most impressive thing anyone's ever done. Same sort of thing goes with the Denver Nuggets. If you look through, like they were considered one of the better teams in the league, but they faced a lot of like semi-limited teams along the way, and then they didn't have to face the team out of the Eastern Conference that everybody feared, which was the Boston Celtics or the Milwaukee Bucks. And so it has a certain amount of like just a little bit of a weird kind of like public perception of that title. 2022, when Steph Curry beat that Celtics team and that team didn't have a secondary star, like of all of the championships Steph won, that is by far the most resonant. That is the championship that when you look back, like that's the one that's unassailable. That's the one that even the people that don't like Steph that much are like, holy shit, that was crazy. Like down 2-1 on the road in Boston, hitting all those crazy, insane shots he did to drop a 40 piece to win the title. Like that was crazy, right? Like I could say the same thing in reverse about LeBron. Like LeBron's 2020 title, when he won with Anthony Davis, that title is the least resonant of the 4 that LeBron won. If you go back to 2016, that was LeBron's title that was similar to the Steph one in 2023, where it's like, that's unassailable. You can't shit on that. That is the accomplishment that is the defining moment of LeBron's career. That 2020 title is still a championship. It still counts in the ledger, but it's not the one that's going to resonate for the length of time that we talk about LeBron James the way that 2016 title does. Or the 2013 when they're down 3-2 in the finals and they have to go to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. Those resonate differently. With Steph, as you look back to the 2017 finals, here's the simplest way that I could put it to you guys. In 2017 before the season and in 2018 before the season, the Warriors were so favored over the field that before the season started, so in early October, the sports books had them as a negative odds favorite to win the title. Meaning if you bet $1 in October for the Warriors to win the title, you were going to win less than $1. That is how clearly more talented that team was than anyone else in the league. Doesn't mean they're not champions. Doesn't mean those titles don't count. But yeah, like think about a bet you've placed recently on DraftKings where you received negative odds and like think about how you expected that team to win, or you expected that player to hit those points, rebounds, assists, score a touchdown, whatever it was. You expected it with the negative odds. That's how everyone felt about those Warriors teams before we even started playing basketball. So at a certain point, I do think it's worth at least acknowledging that those titles carry a different level of weight in the court of public opinion. But it doesn't change the fact that at the time, I still believed Steph was one of the greatest players in NBA history who was more than good enough to be the best player on a championship team, thus a champion and should be respected as such. So on and so forth for KD. Like, to me, I didn't need to see KD go to the Warriors in 2017 to know that he could be a champion. He was playing with Russell Westbrook, who's like like a kind of a hectic basketball player that made a lot of big mistakes in big spots, and his team didn't have a lot of offensive talent around him. It was a very big bruising type of team. I'm not trying to say that, KD doesn't share some blame for the failures of the Thunder beforehand, but I knew in 2014 that KD was good enough to be a champion and thus a championship level player. He just hadn't done it yet. And so that's the thing. It shouldn't take us seeing Steph in 2024 or 2022 winning a title against long odds for us to acknowledge that he's a champion. It shouldn't take LeBron winning a title in 2016 against long odds for us to acknowledge that he's a champion that type of all-time great, but it's just kind of unfortunately the way that it works in the court of public opinion. To put it simply, just like anytime you watch anybody do everything or anything, the degree of difficulty matters in how impressed you are. I watched John Mayer once at the Sphere play an entire 2 shows, missing his index finger on his fretting hand. And that was far more impressive than anything I've ever seen him do because of the degree of difficulty. It is just a natural part of the way that we process information. So yeah, like to me, they were championships. To me, they kind of add to the story of Steph Curry's career. But like when someone asks me to explain to them, tell me about Steph Curry 20 years from now, tell me about Steph Curry, tell me about why he was as good as he was, tell me about his greatest accomplishments, I'm probably not going to talk a ton about 2017 and 2018 because there was very little in the way of adversity in those seasons. Like I've said this before on the record. Everyone says, "Oh, if Chris Paul didn't get hurt, they might have lost in 2018." I don't feel that way. I think that the Warriors in must-win games in Game 6 and Game 7 would have got it done. I think that lineup, that Steph, KD, Klay Thompson at the peak of his powers, Draymond Green, best defensive player in the league, Andre Iguodala still good and mobile at that point. That was the best 5-man lineup that has ever been constructed on a normal basketball team, not counting like all-star teams or Team USA. And so that certainly is going to play a role in their ability to win a championship. Next question. Who is better? A lot of like little nitty gritty Lakers Warriors questions, like head to head Lakers Warriors questions today, which I think are fascinating. Who is better, Austin Reaves or Brandon Podziemski? They're very different types of players. So for instance, like Austin Reaves just averaged 31, 7, and 7 over his last 3 games. Brandon Podziemski is not capable of that. So like there's no doubt that Austin is a substantially better offensive player. But Brandon Podziemski has turned into a very reliable guard defender in this league who's been doing a really nice job pressuring the ball and playing a very important role in the Warriors defensive scheme. And he's also been a productive cog in the offensive system as kind of like a second side action guy and like a connective playmaker, right? So to put that into a more concise statement, I would say that Austin is better than Pods, in my opinion, but the gap is smaller than the statistical performance would lead you to believe.